Visit Elmhurst.org to explore the new City of Elmhurst website. Find out the latest Elmhurst news, pay utility bills and parking tickets, report concerns, and much more. Elmhurst.org is an ideal way to discover what Elmhurst offers your business, your family, your life.
There are several thousand collisions involving trains each year, which result in over 1,000 injuries and several hundred deaths. A majority of these deaths occur when someone is struck by a train while trespassing on railroad property. Remember, railroad property is private property. Trespassing along railroad property is not only against the law, it's very dangerous. Avoid taking shortcuts. The only safe place to cross railroad tracks is at a designated crossing. Don't get caught dead on the tracks. Stay off, stay away, stay alive.
Make this year your year to plant trees for America.
You can make the air taste fresher, breathe as deeply as you please.
Go online to arborday.org to find out how to select, plant, and prune your trees.
Help the Arbor Day Foundation plant more trees across the nation. Plant a tree today for all the world to share.
Go to arborday.org.
Elmhurst Garden Club, a member of Garden Clubs of Illinois and National Garden Clubs, is proud to support the goals and mission of our national organization to provide education, resources, and networking opportunities for the members and community, and to promote the love of gardening, floral design, civic and environmental responsibilities. Just recently, the president of National Garden Clubs, Linda Nelson, shared that collectively, its members are the largest volunteer organization in the United States. Quite an impressive group we are. As the current president of Elmhurst Garden Club, I am privileged to share with you that over the past calendar year, Elmhurst Garden Club awarded more than $25,000 in scholarships to students majoring in horticulture, environmental studies, ecology, and plant biology. Our scholarship is named the Mildred Hartney Scholarship in honor of a former Elmhurst Garden Club member who was instrumental in establishing the scholarship program over 20 years ago. Our scholarship awards are funded through the annual Elmhurst Garden Club Walk and Fair, featuring gardens in our hometown, along with a garden-themed craft and plant sale held in Elmhurst Park District's award-winning Wilder Park on the same day. Our annual garden walk is the second Sunday of July. For 2014, July 13th. We sincerely appreciate all members of our community who pitch in to sponsor, donate, volunteer, or any way to make the Elmhurst Garden Walk and Fair the success it is in our community. We especially want to thank the Elmhurst Park District for its support of our annual Garden Walk and Fair. Funds raised by the Garden Walk are also used to support local organizations, including but not limited to the Elmhurst Park District, Elmhurst College Arboretum, and the Elmhurst YMCA program. The past 2 years, we have made donations to the District 205 Foundation for the Madison School Early Childhood Sensory Garden, designed and installed by Lynn Baralt of Lynn Baralt Landscaping, a member of our club. In addition, we are proud to have had the opportunity to support the development of a grassroots horticulture program in the Westmont, Illinois High School School District. Just last week, our board unanimously approved a $1,000 donation to Garden Clubs of Illinois for a Washington, Illinois area tornado damaged tree replanting effort. $500 of these funds is from our club's general funds. The other $500 is from the Garden Walk and Fair funds. We thank Jean Baldakowski, our current scholarship committee chair, and the complete scholarship committee, along with Betsy Grimm, our club's former scholarship chair, for each of their parts in making our scholarship program what it is today. I, along with Jean and the members of the Elmhurst Garden Club Scholarship Committee, will be introducing to you the 2013-2014 scholarship recipients with us today. Through the work of our scholarship committee, the Mildred Hartney Scholarship Program has been made available to some amazing scholars you have the opportunity to meet today. Our first scholar, Mary Butler, is a senior at Elmhurst College with a 4.0 overall grade point average. Mary is majoring in biology and has a minor in business. She is a member of the Biology Honor Society and the Business Honor Society. In his reference letter for Mary, the chairman of the biology department of Elmhurst College writes, "Of all the biology students I have taught over the past 18 years, I would rank Mary to be in the top 5%. Mary has been working with a research project in developing a protocol for the tissue culture of a unique species of yew that grows only on the Elmhurst College campus. Mary plans to attend pharmacy school and has recently been accepted and hopes to explore greater uses of plants in pharmaceuticals. Mary Butler, Elmhurst Garden Club welcomes you.
Well, I would like to say thank you for inviting me here today. You guys have a wonderful club. And I would like to thank you very much for the scholarship. It was a great honor to receive it. And I guess you would like to learn a little bit more about me. Okay. So, as Norma said, I am a senior at Elmhurst College. I'm majoring in biology and minoring in business and chemistry. And a little bit about my interests. I love gardening. Every year, at the end of this time, at the end of winter, I look forward to the arrival of the Burpee Seed catalog in the mail. And I have to admit, I could not resist, and I bought that Steakhouse hybrid tomato seeds. So I look forward to starting my season in a little while. I mostly concentrate on tomato and hot pepper varieties, so things like Rutgers tomatoes, Bloody Butcher is one of my favorites, and hot peppers like Trinidad scorpions and Bulgarian carrot peppers. I'm also a beekeeper. My family's been beekeeping for about 40 years. We are a very small operation. We run only about 2 to 3 hives. And of course, as many beekeepers around in this country we have had recent challenges, with the colony collapse disorder and hive beetles. And I absolutely love music. I sang 4 years in my high school choir. And I love a variety of music, so stuff from the 70s, jazz, big band. I absolutely love Nat King Cole. And in the summer, you will find me at garage sales looking through all the vinyl records. I have quite an assortment of them in the basement, I have to say. So, okay. And here you can see some pictures. In the top corner, we have I am smoking a hive, so we can open it up to take a look inside. In the other picture at the top, I am uncapping honey. To spin it out, you have to cut off the wax with a hot knife so that you can release the cells to spin it out in a spinner. There is me standing next to 2 of our hives and 2 large tomatoes in my garden. So completely switching gears, my research at Elmhurst College, as Norma said, I am working with plant cloning. We have this little yew at campus. There's a picture of it right there. It's called the Elmhurst upright yew. And we originally believed it was a hybrid that was created by a former groundskeeper, Ragnar Moen. We now know that it was not created by him, that he found it naturally growing. So we are very interested in trying to clone this species or variety. It's not quite a species yet. There's paperwork to do for that, and I'm working on it. We would like to clone it, to preserve it. There's only one of them, and to propagate it, hopefully. So how you do it is you take a little cutting off the tree, a little bit of a stem or a leaf, and you disinfect it to kill everything off except the cells. And then you cut it to expose the cells in the inner thing of the stem or the leaf. And then you expose them to different plant hormones, so different hormones like auxins and cytokinins. And what that does is it causes the cells that have already been differentiated into different cells of the plant, it causes them to de-differentiate and form a clump of cells called a callus. And basically what that is, it's a clump of stem cells. And then you can take that clump and you can make it become what you want. So once you've got that clump of cells, you put it on a different medium that has different concentrations of hormones, and you cause it to form roots. And then once those roots are nicely formed, you take it and you put it on a new medium and cause it to grow a shoot. And once you've done that, you take your little mini plant and you plant it, and you have an exact genetic clone of the original plant you had. So my results, I have had limited success. I have been able to get callus formation, but that's unfortunately where I stopped. Once I tried to make my rooting medium, they petered out when I put them on there, and so I have now tried to go back and make a new formulation. So here are some pictures of my research. As you can see, the greenish brownish lumps around the stems and the leaves, those are de-differentiated stem cells of the plant. So you would take those and you put them on a new medium, and you would cause them to form roots and shoots. And down here in the corner, you can see the formation of a new apical meristem. That's basically a new stem of the plant growing. Okay. So my future plans for my research, because we do not know what two species of yew on our campus contributed to the Elmhurst upright yew's creation, we would like to examine the DNA of the plant to see what genes it has in common with other species on our campus. We have plenty of them. And because it doesn't look like anything else we have on campus, it grows upright. It does not grow out, which like a lot of yews do. So that's on my to-do list. Also, I would like to interview people who knew the former groundskeeper. I mean, he has since passed away, just to gain a little bit more insight on the discovery of the yew, when it was discovered growing there. And of course, as I said, I need to figure out a new formulation of a rooting medium that can keep my calluses alive to form roots and shoots. Future plans for me, I'm off to pharmacy school in the fall. I was recently accepted into Midwestern University's Chicago College of Pharmacy, so I'm very excited to be going there. But I will also continue my interest in the environment. I do plan to keep on beekeeping and, of course, gardening. Last year, someone asked me to grow tomatillos in my garden. I did not know anything about them, so I planted lots of them. They grew like weeds, and I got bushels of tomatillos. I had no idea what to do with them. So they took over the garden, so I have a little bit more, experience with that. So definitely going to be looking through that burpee seed catalog. So again, thank you very much for having me here today. Thank you for the scholarship, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. This is the most fun thing that I think we do as Garden Club members. This is the culmination of the garden walk that's held every year, and we're just getting ready to kick off for 2014. It's a pleasure to be able to honor our scholars here from 2013, and it is my pleasure to honor Ann Nees. Did I say who I am? I'm Penny O'Neill, and I'm on the Scholarship Selection Committee for the Elmhurst Garden Walk and Fair. Ann was here last year in 2012. She was a 2012-2013 recipient of some of our funds, and it is a pleasure to have her back again this year. We like to keep growing our students, and I was trying to talk her into becoming a member not too many minutes ago. Ann is a second-year master's student in the Joint Plant Biology and Conservation Program at the Chicago Botanic Garden and Northwestern University. Her research focus is on the family Orchidaceae. I feel a little bit like the Oscars last night. The orchid family. Her current thesis project investigates the plant-soil interaction of Cypripedium candidum, which is the white lady slipper orchid. Anne also was the science consultant for the orchid show at the Chicago Botanic Garden. She is a collaborator on the Smithsonian North American Orchid Conservation Center's Go Orchids website. The words used to describe Anne in the letters of recommendation have just been exemplary. They include words like engaging, highly intelligent, creative, motivated. And I can tell you from spending lunch with her this afternoon, she's a very nice person. Anne, welcome and congratulations.
Hi, I'm Ann Neese from Northwestern University master's program, and I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about each one of the 3 projects that Penny mentioned. I'm spending the most time on my thesis project because that's my favorite one, obviously. So first I want to talk a little bit about Go Orchids. Go Orchids is part of the Smithsonian's North American Orchid Conservation Center's program, and it's a website that's dedicated to helping people learn about and interact with our native orchid species here in North America. So I'm fortunate enough, I get to work on 16 different native species, as well as to provide information about all of our local species here in the Midwest. And so this is kind of the homepage, and you can see people can search geographically or by name, and it has beautiful pictures from very talented photographers here in the US, and the goal is to have all of our native orchid species up to help raise awareness. All right, the second one is the Orchid Show at the Chicago Botanic Garden, which is going on right now. I got to do the science advising for this, which was a lot of fun. And this is a great opportunity because it's bringing orchids into public awareness. And so it's not as focused on our native species as Go Orchids is, but it's really starting a dialogue with the public. And so far, the reception and attendance has been phenomenal on it. So I thought I'd mention this one also. All right. And then finally, my favorite, my project, plant-soil relationships in communities of Cypripedium candidum. So Cypripedium candidum is the white lady slipper orchid, and here you can see those little white slippers. Those are actually the orchids themselves. They're tiny, hard to find, and they don't grow in the nicest place. But they're beautiful, and they're well worth the effort. So for my what I did was I collected soil samples, and I collected photosynthesis readings, some root tissue, and some leaf tissue samples, and did a whole lot of analysis on them. The reason for this was because when I started the project, we really didn't know a lot about Cypripedium candidum, just some very basic things, like it grows in wet prairies, it likes full sunlight, it lives for a long time. There's really vague things, and we haven't had a lot of success with maintaining the populations we have. They've been in decline, and cultivation on it is nearly impossible. It's extremely low success rate. So I wanted to learn some more about this plant to see if we could improve cultivation, conservation, and hopefully even one day reintroduction. So some of the similarities I found across the populations I looked at was that the soil is extremely sandy, more so than the rest of the prairie in general, so more than 95% sand. That if you have a flowering stem, it has much higher photosynthetic rate than if it's not flowering. That phosphate was actually the same across the populations and very low. Soil moisture was the same, around 25%. And carbon isotope discrimination, which describes how well the plants are using nutrients and their relationship on fungal partners, that was about 20%, which is standard for prairie plants. So it was hypothesized that these plants have a large reliance on fungi, and it's actually not as strong as we thought it would be. So some of the differences we found between the populations, if we start at the top of the screen, I've labeled the red bubbles 1, 2, 3, the 3 different populations I looked at. Some of the differences were size, how much of them were flowering, and what was interesting was I expected that the place with the lowest nutrients would have the highest fungal colonization because the fungi can help to supplement nutrient loss. And actually, the place with the highest nutrients was the highest fungal colonization, and the lowest nutrients was the lowest fungal colonization. So that was really interesting because the place with the fewest fungi and the fewest nutrients was also where the plants were performing the best. So not at all was I expecting to find. And so this is actually very good to know because if you're growing something, you might think, oh, fertilizing it will be great, or we need to get this fungal partner in to make sure our plants are big and healthy and strong, and that doesn't actually seem to be the case with these. So that was very interesting to find out, and hopefully we'll be able to use that information. And so the rest is just sort of thank you to everybody that helped me out, and hopefully I'll get done in time in June. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pat O'Dwyer. I'm a member of the Scholarship Committee and very happy to be. And it is my pleasure to introduce our 2 scholarship winners from the College of DuPage. The first one is Lisa Peterson, and we know her already since she was a scholarship winner last year, and we're happy she is again. Lisa is a student at the College of DuPage and will be graduating this spring with her Associates of Applied Science degree in horticulture, as well as 2 additional certifications in landscape design and construction and sustainable landscape. Her professors describe her as an excellent student who is passionate about nature and the environment. Lisa created a sustainable community garden on her cul-de-sac, which began as a test garden to determine what plants could survive the heat of the asphalt, average rainfall, salt, drought, snow, and require minimal maintenance. She takes pride in the success of this garden and says it has become much more than she ever expected and is now more aligned with a Monet painting that changes throughout the seasons. To quote her scholarship application, Lisa is excited to create contemporary, sustainable landscapes that are not only designed for beauty and entertainment, but function to create a thriving ecosystem that will ensure delightful interaction with wildlife, help to restore ecological balance, and have a positive effect on the personal health of those who interact with them. Please welcome Lisa Peterson.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and as she said, I am really into gardening and the ecological aspect of beautiful plants and just nature in general. I'm very passionate about many of these things. My inspiration to go back to school was the Lurie Garden, and it all started with my test garden, which is in a heat island in a 40-foot circle in the middle of my cul-de-sac, which is blacktop with a bank next to it and a school across the street, so nothing but blacktop for blocks. So I was looking for something to do, and my sister told me, have you ever seen the Lurie Garden? So I went to the Lurie Garden, and I immediately fell in love. As you can see, everybody else would fall in love with it. It was such a beautiful place, and I wanted to create something like that. But I didn't know all these plants yet, even though I've been a gardener for years. So I studied and looked into what types of plants would actually survive that I didn't have to really spend a lot of time on, especially since it isn't even my property. So I went back to school, and soil science, which I thought was going to be a really boring and really hard class, was really the most fascinating class that I took. I was thinking I was going there to learn more garden plants, and what I found was that the soil, the secret is in the soil. Soil is everything, and if you know your soil and you match the plant to that soil, you are going to have success. So I learned a lot about using organic matter in your soil and how it changes. I tried that in my own yard. For the last 5 years, I've been composting. That's my dog sitting in the compost pile. And he even knows that that's a good thing. So it's really nice and comfy. So we learned about the nitrogen cycle, about the soil horizons, about the components of soil, how to avoid the compaction, just the whole soil circle. And it's very interesting if you ever want to look into something. This was one of the most profound things that I saw in my classes, and a few different teachers put it on the board for us. And it shows the prairie plants, and how deep the roots are. And these are what they call clay busters. So in our soils here, which are very high in clay, if you have those types of soils, these are the types of plants that you want to plant. They're adapted to this type of soil. So why fight it and try to plant beautiful blue hydrangeas that are just going to die and look bad when you can have these beautiful plants, and these are what also help to create good soil. So then another class that I took that I loved was my environmental biology class, and there were too many topics to even possibly dent in mentioning, but our teacher was a really cool guy, and he gave us kind of carte blanche of any different subject that we could pick 4 different projects out of like 7. And one of them was an art inspiration piece on something that you felt strong about and to send a message. So since I've always liked art, I chose to do an art project on how trees support our earth. And so it was really a fun project, and other things that we talked about in environmental biology that really stuck with me were everything I've had listed over there: food additives, wildlife, forest degradation, endangered species, soil erosion, bottled water, big problem with bottled water, how the government is entwined in all this, which we all know, just a lot of interesting stuff. All right, here's my plant classes. And as gardeners, I wanted to, of course we have to talk about plants. So I encourage any one of you who wants to learn more about plants to take one of those classes at College of DuPage. Every one of them was awesome. Here's a couple of my teachers. Julia, on the bottom, she teaches the perennials classes, and she will teach you the botanic names of every single plant. And she taught us how to identify pines from a few needles to a pine cone. And then we have Roy Diblick. I don't know if you're familiar with Roy Diblick, but he taught the perennial plant communities class there. And he's the one who we did the garden last year. I think I talked about the garden that we did in the Glen Ellen Park. And he's my big inspiration. He also worked on the Leary Garden. So as soon as I found out that that guy was teaching classes, I had to go to COD and take him. So he's just an awesome guy. And then the other woman was the sustainable landscape design teacher, Carla Lynch. And this is her in her garden. She took us there on a garden walk. The whole class is just going on garden walks. So you guys would all love these classes. I'm telling you, it was just going on garden walk after garden walk and talking about the plants. It was really, really very fun. My class that I waited for the very last was my math for horticulture class, because I've been horrible at math my whole life. I've had math phobia, so I'm over the math phobia now because I finished the class. And I did learn some really interesting things that are really going to help me out in my business. I never knew how to calculate weird-shaped beds. You know, you have all these nice curvilinear lines on your beds. Well, how much mulch do you need? And how many plants do you need? It's really hard when I have to count them on the little grid. So that was a really, really interesting and very valuable thing for me. Obviously, the pesticide and plant growth regulator calculations are good to know how to do, even though I really don't plan on using very many of those because I compost, and that takes care of most of it. But just the basic mathematical applications for turf grass, we all have to do that, even if we don't want to get our grass looking good. Learned all about the NPK, on how to read these bags, which I've never knew my whole life of being a gardener. So we had to learn how to do all the fertilizer calculations and estimate jobs, bids, and stuff. So it was very challenging, but very, very good class. My other class that I absolutely loved was the guy from the Conservation Foundation. I can't think of his name, but he taught the Landscape for Wildlife class, and that's where I learned about the Doug Tallamy book. And if you can see the little triangle there, look how many native plants we have in comparison to lawn. Does that give you a little idea on how much room we have to grow into making this a better environment? These are all pictures that I took since I did my circle garden. And they were all just taken last summer. I can't tell you how much wildlife has come into my life now. And so people bring their kids over there and they ride their bike around and they look. And so now I'm going out there showing the kids and they're looking for the praying mantids and what kinds of bees I have and all that. So it's a very engaging garden. It's been a really, really interesting experiment. So that's what I saw this summer, some of it anyways. And then the other thing that was really interesting, and I think we really need to get the word out on water management, because our practices are so bad for our environment, wasting water on plants when there's no need, when you can have beautiful gardens with a lot less water if you just plant for the right place. So we learned all about the watersheds and where all the water goes and how it's collecting up all these toxins from everyone fertilizing their lawns, and how it's ruining the oceans, and it was really an interesting class also. So get a rain barrel. Okay, and here's me. Design is one of my favorite passions. The top picture is me. I just won 2 awards at the ILCA design contest. One with I won the #1 for the CAD design and #2 in the drawing design. And I have to say I'm pretty proud, because that's really what I really love to do, so I want to really be good at that. So there's just a picture of one of the fun designs that we did, and we learned the most important thing we learned about design is that form follows function. And that's what design is. It's really the function of the function is the main thing. So you build around the function, and all these pretty garden plants are kind of like the little pillow on the couch, so to speak. They really are. Even though we always go in it the opposite, saying, I want that plant and I'm going to find a place for it, that's really the backwards way of doing it. So it taught me the right way to do it. So that was good. And here's pictures of my test garden that I've been talking about in different seasons. And as you can see, it looks pretty good, and it's held up beautifully in the snow. Every year, all the plants come back. Those sedums I have there are holding this much snow still today. Even though my snow is over those grasses, that's how high it is, because it's in the middle of the street, so the snow plows come and that pile just keeps it's like a mountain out there. But it still looks actually very nice, even in this weather. So I encourage anyone who has bad soil or really tough spots to just try to find the right plant for the right place, and I think you'll be much happier. It's much more rewarding to have something that holds up and is beautiful all year long. So that's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. Our second winner from College of DuPage this year is Karen Dvorak. I am very pleased to introduce her. She also attends COD, as I said. She has a certificate in horticulture and has just completed her first year of work towards an Associate's of Applied Science degree in horticulture. For 19 years, Karen worked in healthcare as a nurse. Then she made the life-changing decision to change careers and to return to school to support that decision. She says that rather than just earning a living, she wanted to work in a field she loves, and so decided to go after her heart's desire and her true calling in life. She's created many gardens over the years and is looking forward to making it her full-time work. Karen's recommendations describe her as a student with an enthusiasm for learning who will be a valuable asset to the field, and as an avid gardener whose beautiful gardens attract the admiration of neighbors and passersby. Karen's goal is to specialize in native and prairie conservation and restoration, and to work at a county or state level. Please welcome Karen Dvorak.
Hello. I would first like to thank the Elmhurst Garden Club for choosing me as one of their recipients of this wonderful scholarship, and especially Jean Bolakowski. What I would like to speak about is just one class that I took at COD. And I have to thank Lisa for kind of introducing the whole topic of classes, because that's really what I wanted to focus on here. So the class that I took, out of all the classes, I have to say I love almost every single one of them. They're the most interesting classes that I've ever taken, and what I'd like to speak about is taxonomy class. And this was a class that Julia taught. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Julia Fitzpatrick Cooper, who is one of our beloved instructors at COD. And she is one of the ladies that takes us, like Lisa spoke, from garden to garden during the summer. And how could you not like a class that you meet at someone's house in the front yard, and you just travel, you just go through the garden. You just do a garden walk and look at all the plants, and they're described to you, and you hear about the history of the property and what the homeowner has done to her, how she grew them all, and what she's done to help them all survive. And then you take your test is actually part of that walk, which is really kind of cool. The first time I remember doing a test like that with Julia's class, it's just, you get a piece of paper and you write number from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, and she'll walk up to a plant and say, okay, there's number 1. And you have to write down the name, the Latin name of the plant, and then the common name of the plant. You have to write it correctly. So anyway, taxonomy class was pretty much the way I just described. However, what we really focused on in that class was the parts of the flower itself. So it was kind of like a botany class, which I just love. I love the sciences, and especially botany and horticulture. I love looking at the parts and seeing how it all goes together. But we learned about like I said, the parts of the flower itself, the shapes of the leaves. We had to learn all about, you'd have no idea until you take a class like this what's out there as far as like a leaf. You think, well, a leaf is a leaf, but once you start to study it, you learn the different textures and shapes and forms and styles, and how many are on a branch and how many make up a leaf. And so anyway, that was part of it, and leaf arrangement, texture. Then we went on to different types of fluorescences, which is the flower style, what the flower itself looks like. And we learned, how they, all about the colored parts of a flower and how they're arranged on the stem. The class really focused on the different families of flowers, different families of perennials, and which was, we never thought we'd get through the class. We never thought we'd be able to remember everything, but we did. The families, how to distinguish between one family to another, what are the basic ID features of that particular family, and also how to determine the sex of a plant, which was most interesting. We would take apart, we would bring samples of flowers after we would trudge all over COD's campus, and we'd be plucking flowers off, and then we'd bring them back to the classroom after an hour or so, and we'd have microscopes out, and we would be looking at the flower parts. We'd literally pull the petals off and look at what's inside there, and look at the sexual parts. I know it's kind of funny to say, but they were gorgeous. They were absolutely gorgeous. I don't know, and I wish I had a picture for you, because it's just a wonder, and it just makes me realize that there is a God out there, because who else could design such beauty that's just enveloped within these beautiful petals? With that's basically what the class was all about. But what we got to do for a project, because of course every class has a project, at least one. For our class project, we had to accumulate a series of 10 plants from any place that you decided to choose from. Well, they all had to be different families. And it just so happened that in my own garden, I had multiple families in my own garden, so I didn't have to go anywhere. It was almost kind of like cheating, but my instructor said it was okay, so I was able to choose my plants right out of my front yard, and I actually pulled a few extras because I wanted to make a few extras, and just in case one of them didn't turn out. And what we had to do was we had to mount them like you would a butterfly or an insect maybe. So we had to do these botanicals, and I've got a few of them here to show you. This is one that we had a lot of fun doing. She taught us. We went to Morton's Arboretum, and actually in their laboratory there, where they showed us exactly how they do this. So we kind of learned from the experts. And then I have one more. As you can see, I framed a couple for my own wall. But Julia kept all the others. She kept them. So she's got this big locker in one of the classrooms where she keeps all these. So if if a student wants to study, they can pile through the different plants that are all mounted and labeled. They're all labeled correctly. These aren't labeled, but they're just for show for myself. And that's just a description of just one of the many fabulous classes that I have the opportunity to take at COD. I just love it. And I'm taking an insect class right now that's kind of creepy, but I love it. It's all about bugs, and it's like you got to look at them. You actually have to look at them, but it's really, really interesting. And the projects in that class is also very interesting. And like Lisa spoke about soil class, was just phenomenal. Just a phenomenal class about soil, just unbelievably interesting. So that's it, and thank you.
I'm so proud to be on. And this afternoon, just hearing them is so exciting, because we as gardeners, we just love protecting our earth and everything else. I'm introducing Ashley Pales, and she is currently attending Northern Illinois University. She is majoring in environmental studies with an emphasis on water contamination. And we heard earlier about our use of water. So Ashley, you're in the right place, putting your efforts into that. Ashley is actively involved in Green Paws, the NIU Environmental Club, and the Illinois Lake Management Association. She holds an office position in both of these organizations. In addition, she has been participating in the club's activities such as river cleanup on NIU campus. She believes that these organizations will assist her in achieving her goal of helping the environment. Besides Ashley's extracurricular activities, she has maintained a high academic GPA, plus she has a part-time job on campus. Her demanding schedule demonstrates her commitment to achieving her goals. Ashley was one of our scholarship recipients for the last year, and it is our hope that she applies again this year. As gardeners and environmental protectors, EGC members couldn't be happier to support a young lady like Ashley in reaching and fulfilling her goals. I am pleased to introduce you and present Ashley Pales.
Thank you for the beautiful introduction, Marilyn. Hi, I'm Ashley. A lot has changed since then. I've gotten even more busy, hard to see. I've declared a second major, so I'm in environmental studies, water, and also a geology emphasis now. So that ties in more with plants as well. I agree with my fellow soil science is very interesting. I'd like to take a few moments to move on to my next slide. Thank you. I also I hold a part-time job. I work for the NIU admissions. I'm a mentor for the Husky Service Scholars. I do research with Melissa Lencheski, and like she said, I'm the treasurer for 2 organizations on campus. My research and my mentorship tie in pretty closely together. My mentorship through the Husky Service Scholars. We volunteer with the DeKalb Community Gardens, and that's the new up-and-coming thing from Dan Kenny. We work with him closely to try to get locals to understand that your food is locally produced. We put gardens on schools to get kids interacted and show them where their food actually comes from. Aside from that, I do research with Melissa. That's the second most important thing I do. The research right now is focused more on groundwater contamination and how that affects the human cycle, which also affects our food and gardening as well. But I'm a lab assistant for her, and generally I work on anything that comes through our lab. Right now, the biggest project we have is with an international organization called ICATUS and their subunit in Mexico. It's the International Center for Appropriate Technology and Indigenous Sustainability. Much easier as an acronym. We also work with the Engineers Without Borders on NIU's campus, and what we are working on is a sustainable water filtration system. So in a break room, there's the tub of water, you put the spigot, you get a cup. That's what we're trying to remake. So you can't exactly have that in central Mexico. So what we want to do is provide a technology that locals can create and be able to make themselves, to boost their own economy, increase their health, and clean up their water. I specifically, within Mel's lab, work on a filtration media. So a Brita filter, if you think of a Brita filter and the carbon that is inside of it cleans your water, makes it taste better, that's what I'm trying to find on an indigenous scale, so that way people can make it and they can have clean water as well. In central Mexico, they have highly contaminated water from the natural processes of their rocks. So they have a lot of arsenic and fluoride in their water, which is poisonous and can cause bone cancers and osteoporosis and all sorts of fun things you don't want to drink in your water. But we work on several filtration media and seeing which one will remove these contaminants the best. And hopefully this spring and this summer, I'll be going down with Melissa and the rest of our lab to test the waters down there and get this project off the ground. So the types of media that we've already tested have been a wide range that are be locally sourced. So tamarind seeds are really popular in Mexico. They don't eat the seed parts, so that's what we're going to try and use that for. Activated alum, cysteine, biochar, and bone char. And those all kind of sound scary, but most of the biochar and the bone char is activated carbon that you would have in a Brita filter. So we've done a few results, and this is just a small sample. The two that have worked the best were activated alum and the bone char. They removed up to 90% of the contamination, which would bring all of the contaminant, for fluoride at least, we haven't run our arsenic samples, but it would bring it back down under drinkable standards, provide a healthier society for them. So aside from research and volunteering with the DeKalb County Gardens, I also still have to go to school. I'm still on track, and I should be graduating in next summer. And two really important classes that I've had. It changes from year to year. As we know, it's transitory. You have one class, ooh, this is so cool. Then go to the next class, oh my gosh, this is even cooler. I'd like to do that instead. So the two classes that I have right now and recently were hydrogeology and water quality. And they basically shaped my opinion on how the human aspect of water, the contamination that we put into our water, and how that interacts with the microbial and the biological aspects of water. And it's really encompassing, and I find it extraordinarily fascinating how it works as a cycle in a system and how it comes back to us as a society, and we don't even realize it until somebody goes, oh yeah, well, you've got all this stuff that's in your water that shouldn't be there. And you're like, well, how did it get there? I think we all drove here today. And then, aside from that, hopefully I'm going to continue to do more research with Melissa Lencheski, and into the summer I hope to have another research project with her on the antibiotic resistance of microbes in surface waters around confined feeding operations. So that is a hopeful research project for us. And after then, I hope to have a better idea on what I would like to do and be able to come up with my own research so I can go to graduate school and further pursue any careers that I might find fascinating. All right? Good night.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Swallow, a member of the Scholarship Committee and also a member of the Elmhurst Garden Walk and Fair, which I keep volunteering for. I get down usually at the end of the summer, but then we have these great meetings with the scholars talking about what they do, and I sign up again. So it's my great pleasure this afternoon to introduce Kelsey Walsh, who is a two-time winner of our Garden Club Scholarship. She's currently a senior at Northern Illinois University, and she's majoring in environmental studies with an emphasis on biodiversity and environmental restoration. That's not keeping her busy enough, so she has a minor in geology and environmental geoscience, which sounds very fancy and very difficult. She commutes to school and nonetheless finds plenty of time to do volunteer work, which she does through the McHenry County Conservation District. She's talked to us about some of that work before, but today she's going to speak to us about prescribed fire and the use of that as one of her volunteer projects. Kelsey Walsh.
Thanks, Carolyn, for introducing me. So like Carolyn said, my major is environmental studies, and I have a biodiversity and environmental restoration emphasis, and I'm hopefully going to be graduating this spring. Growing up, I've always been really interested in the environment and interested in nature. I was always the kid who would come home covered in dirt and bringing insects home, much to my mother's dismay. So I decided to major in environmental studies because I wanted to end up in a job where I could be outside but more importantly, helping the environment, helping the earth. And I found that the environmental studies program at Northern would help me with that. My talk today is about one of my volunteer activities and also something we study a lot in environmental restoration, which is prescribed fire. So what is a prescribed fire? Prescribed fires are controlled fires that are intentionally lit in order to maintain the health of an ecosystem. They are an essential tool in Midwest restoration. Historically, fire has been used by Native Americans for centuries to cut down on dead grass and plants and maintain open grassy areas that would attract game animals in that they would hunt. So it's been a part of the landscape for a long time, and a lot of the native plant species that are around today are used to fire, and in fact, it's actually good for them. It helps them to develop deeper root systems, and it removes invasive plants, among other things. So these are some of the benefits of a prescribed fire. Removes invasive plant species like garlic mustard, I think honeysuckle too. There's some different, yeah, garlic mustard. So it cuts down on some invasive plant species. It removes dead litter, dead grasses and leaves. It encourages native vegetation to grow, develop healthy root systems. There's some other benefits, but for brevity's sake, we'll leave it at that. Let's see. This is a photo I took last April in McHenry County. This is a protected area that the Conservation District maintains. There are some really interesting soils. We have a soil science theme today, I guess. There's some really interesting soil types in this area, and as a result, there's some very unique plants. But at the moment, it's completely covered with dead grass. You can see by the lighter material. A lot of twigs and leaves and things that just have to go. There's also a lot of garlic mustard. So this is the first picture. One of the volunteers is starting the fire in the corner, and it's just moving that way. So that's the first picture, the fire's being lit. This is about 15 minutes afterwards. It moves really quickly. The fire is moving and burning up a lot of the dead grasses and leaves. A lot of the burned plant material that remains turns into this ashy material, and it actually kind of goes into the soil and helps improve the soil over time. Okay. This is the fire burning. We did get a couple of phone calls from the neighbors, but the fire department did not come out because we did tell the fire department ahead of time this was going to happen, so they knew about it. So this is just a photo of the fire burning. This is some of the volunteers. Most people wear water packs on their back just in case something gets out of hand. I'm wearing one, but you can't tell because I'm taking the picture. We're all wearing fireproof pants and tops just in case. This is after the burn. You can tell a lot of that dead grass is gone. A lot of the leaves are gone. After things cooled down, it was a couple of days later, we came back and we planted a lot of native plant seeds. And it actually rained a few days after that too, which was nice. So we got some native seeds in there. And a few months later, I found common arrowhead coming up in one of the areas that was burned. Common arrowhead is native to Illinois. It's threatened by endangered or invasive plant species, also habitat degradation, things like that. So I was really happy to find some arrowhead coming up. And this is last fall, so a few months after the burn, we found swamp milkweed. We didn't actually plant swamp milkweed, so that was interesting. I don't know how it got there, but we were happy to see that too. That's another native plant, and it's gorgeous when it starts to, the flowers start to come up, and butterflies like it, and it's another healthy plant. It's good to have these plants around because a lot of animals depend on it for food and habitat. And like we saw in this, I think it was Lisa's PowerPoint, a lot of these plants actually have really deep root systems, and fire encourages deep root systems. And there's a whole lot of studies coming out about how these deep root systems actually can pull carbon out of the atmosphere. We always hear about trees pulling carbon out of the atmosphere, but prairie plants actually can hold a lot of atmospheric carbon in their root system. So if we keep this up, who knows, maybe we can change things for the better. So that's the end of my presentation. I just wanted to give you a little glimpse of what I was doing, and I wanted to say thank you for this scholarship and for all the hard work that you guys do throughout the year. It really means a lot. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Jean Waldekuski, and I am honored to be the chairman of the scholarship committee and to work with the wonderful women that you've met today and to be part of the selection process. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Michelle Falish, who is a student at Benedictine University. One of her professors wrote of her that she's the type of student that teachers love to teach. She's a student in environmental studies. He wrote that she provides insight and contributions in her classes. She's helpful with other students, and she's willing to share her experiences as a landscaper. Michelle is an avid composter, and she's going to talk about that. And she even prepared a curbside food waste program and proposed it to the mayor of Downers Grove. She's passionate about the environment, and what she wrote in her application, I want to quote, she said that there's no bigger waste, quote marks, than sending valuable resources such as compostable food wastes into a landfill. It's a pleasure to introduce you to Michelle Falish.
Thank you very much, Jean. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you to the Elmhurst Garden Club for the generous scholarship and also for the honor of speaking here today. My name is Michelle Falish. I am, as of this semester, a senior at Benedictine University in Lisle, studying environmental science. Okay, go ahead. Environmental science is a broad scope of many different disciplines. It requires a general knowledge of most of the natural and social sciences. It requires common sense, discipline, and pragmatism. So I have a question for you. Who here actually thinks about your garbage aside from remembering that, oh my gosh, I have to remember to put it out by the curb on garbage day? Okay, well, that's good to see. So I have another question for you. Who here thinks about what they're contributing to a landfill? Okay, well, good, because you need to, and not very many people do. Most people don't think about these things, and another thing that people don't think about is the soil. The way that we think of it usually is just we bring our garbage out, and someone comes and picks it up, and it just goes away. But another thing, getting back to the soil, we don't really think about this, but soil erosion and degradation are actually huge problems, and no one really thinks too much about it. Agricultural practices are largely responsible for a lot of soil removal and the degradation, and not only do they cause this, but they also suffer from it. If treated properly, soil is actually a renewable resource. The best way to improve the soil structure and health is by adding organic matter, or compost, as most people call it. As gardeners, we actually witness the benefits of our gardens and the soils from adding this organic matter. It's a known fact that it improves soil structure and the health, and that it also harbors bioremediation properties. Go ahead. Okay, so let's take a moment to actually think about our landfills. According to the landfill capacity report published by the Illinois EPA at the close of 2012, our region, the Chicago metropolitan region, which is Region 2, had 11 years of projected space left before it reaches maximum capacity. So this is a problem. So if you don't already think about it, you're going to have to start to, because we really need to find a way to start reducing the amount that is put into a landfill each year. In my household, we compost a majority of our food waste. We collect it in this bucket that I have shown. We don't have the capacity in my household to actually compost meat and bones, but there are composting facilities that do accept food waste, and they do have this capacity. So when the bucket is completely filled, it's brought out to the backyard. There is a stackable compost bin, which I have constructed. It's $50, although it's a terrible picture, but that is me. My son took the picture. Usually this is his chore, which he absolutely loathes. But that's okay. But as you can see also, my neighbors are quite appreciative that my compost bin doesn't get hot enough to actually break down those materials, because if it did, it would set on fire and likely burn down their fence. So I'm sure they really appreciate that. So to measure the impact of our in-home food waste diversion project we have going on, all of the regular solid waste and the food waste material is weighed before it's brought out. The food waste material is shown in red, and the solid waste is shown in blue. So we live in Oswego. In 2012, about 9,000 tons was collected in the town of Oswego. I calculated how much total waste was generated in our household. So what I did was I took all of the food waste, all the solid waste, combined those figures together, figured out how much it was going to be for the year, and then I divided it by 3, because that's how many people we have living in our household. And then I also took the figures from 2012 for the year for Oswego, which was the solid waste that was collected, and I divided that by the number of residents living in Oswego. When I compared them, well, I found something that was kind of odd. And this is with the solid waste and my food waste combined, we are only getting, it's 38% of what the typical Oswegoan is throwing away. Now, there are a multitude of factors that could account for this large disparity. One is that we have unlimited refuse. So what this means is that there's no extra charge. Anyone can put out basically as much as they want. You don't want your refrigerator? Fine. You just set it out there. Same thing with your couch. Well, in my household in the past 6 months, we don't have anything like that went out. So if every Oswegoan had removed their regular solid waste by the same amount of food waste that we had done in our home, 21.4% of that waste that was thrown away in 2011 would have been diverted from the landfill. Something that I had failed to mention earlier, which I meant to say in one of my slides, was that from what I have figured, for the past 6 months, we have diverted, and this is without throwing away meat products, we have diverted 55.7% of our total waste from a landfill. So here's to give you a visual representation. The solid waste is in red, the recyclables in blue, and then the yard waste is shown in green. What you're looking at on the left-hand side, those are actual figures. That is the actual breakdown of the numbers that Oswego had provided me with. Now, if every Oswego resident, let's pretend that the same amount of food waste that each person in my house, let's say that each Oswegoan also, diverted the same amount. That's what it would look like. That green area right there, that is the yard waste and the food waste combined. And so even though maybe it's not the entire pie chart, that's still a pretty big impact. So this is a really, it's really important, and especially given the status of our landfills, like this is going to be a practice that more people might want to think about. So thank you very much for your time and your attention. This is a list of links and resources if you care to look at them, and also I included my email, so if anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to address them today, or if you wanted to email me, I can respond to you at a later date. Thank you.
All right, this concludes our program, and we wish to thank the scholars for their preparation and all their work and effort in presenting the program. I would also, for making it such a great success, thank you. I think you spent a lot of time for our education. And I would also like to thank Pat O'Dwyer for her table decorations, and to Celestia Borgner, who made the initial contact with the city of Elmhurst. She's our PR chair. And I would also like to thank Joe Piscitelli in the back, who is our video taper, if that's correct, and the city of Elmhurst actually for agreeing to do this. And also, I want to let you know that the video will be available in April on Comcast Channel 6 and on AT&T Uverse Channel 99. And also later on, it will be part of the archives of the, it's called elmhursttv.com. So you'll be able to see the program at your viewing pleasure. And also, I want to announce that the next deadline for the scholarships, the applications will be May 1st. So we encourage our scholars to reapply, and for any of you, again, some of you have contacted me, if you know worthy young students interested in horticulture and the environment, please ask them to look at our website and the drop-down for scholarship. This concludes the program, so thank you so much for your attention.
Trees are terrific!
Who perches on the branches, lives among the leaves. Friendly Carly Cardinal, talking about trees.
Sometimes people take for granted about the best things ever planted, but they should be enchanted, should appreciate their trees.
Trees, trees, Carly's Arbor Day Foundation spreads the word across the nation about trees.
Trees are terrific!
Hi, I'm John Quigley, President and CEO of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry. In these challenging economic times, it's imperative that our residents and businesses band together to not only shop Elmhurst, but buy Elmhurst whenever possible. We have great stores in our city center, Spring Road, Butterfield Road, York and Villette Streets, St. Charles and Route 83, North Avenue and Lake Street, along North York and even Grand Avenue. I ask for your help. Let's keep our tax dollars in Elmhurst.
We live in some of the best communities in Illinois. We care about our neighbors. We work hard to preserve our quality of life. But there's something we forget about in Elmhurst. A river runs through it, and it's up to us to protect it. Our storm drains flow to Salt Creek, and that means our harmful waste does too. So try using fewer chemicals on your lawn. Avoid leaking fluids from cars. And grow native flowers and plants to absorb more rainwater. Don't muddy the waters. Do your part to clean up Salt Creek.